Marder's Journal, Session 64, The Root Tomb of Dornhall Road. The house is quiet tonight. The last candle burns low and the storm outside drums softly against the windows. I can't sleep. Not after what I've heard. The adventurers returned tonight, weary and mud-stained from the eastern forest beyond Dornhall Road. They looked as though they'd walked straight out of a grave. I heard enough of their talk by the fire to know this was no simple task. They took the abbot's quest from the board. A sealed parchment bound with gold ribbon, his crest stamped upon it, and the moment they read the words, I felt a chill that hasn't left me. A road once joined Old Arua to the Abbey of Dornhall, but the forest took it back. It said that roots drank from the graves of monks and the dead stirred beneath the soil. They laughed, of course. They always do before the hard ones. Roland muttered about the balance of nature being disrupted, while Dar complained that he'd rather fight something that bleeds, not bark or bone. Teriani just grinned, sharpening her blade in that way she does when she's eager for trouble. And Lyrin, ever calm, ever composed, simply nodded, her violet eyes distant, as if she already felt something waiting for her out there. The road to Dornhall. The party made good pace through the forest road, though the path grew wild and twisted with every mile. One night they met a trembling traveller by his fire. He warned them of roots that move, creeping from the dark to drag sleepers away. Dar scoffed, saying, "Ain't no root gonna take me," and stomped the fire out with his boot. Still, they kept watch that night in pairs, and no one dared sleep too soundly. Later, as dawn broke, Dar wandered off to relieve himself, as he so often does at the most inconvenient times. He nearly tripped over a stone shrine hidden under moss and roots. When he returned, he told the others, "Some fool's altar out there, probably cursed." That was enough for Roland to go investigate. He cleaned the altar with a flick of his hand and a whispered spell, prestidigitation I think it's called, and water appeared, spilling from a long cracked flask etched with the mark of Hestia. Teriani recognised it for what it was, blessed water. They drank it together, and Roland swore the forest seemed to breathe easier afterward. The Battle of Living Vines. 3 days. Travel brought them to the hill crypt of Dornhall Road, half buried in the earth and tangled with roots thick as ropes. When they tried to pry the old door open, the vines shuddered and came to life. Roland shouted for flame while Ashard loosed arrows, the shafts snapping through writhing stalks that bled sap like tar. Teriani slashed at them, green ichor splattering across her armour, while Dar bellowed, "These damned weeds fight better than bandits!" The roots coiled around their legs, pulling them toward gaping knots that dripped with fungus and rot. It took all their strength to break free, Roland's fire, Teriani's blade and Ashard's bowstring snapping until silence fell again. When the last vine withered, the door groaned open, revealing darkness and the faint reek of decay. The hollow crypts inside, they found a corridor lined with broken columns, stone coffins shattered and overgrown with roots that moved like veins. The floor crumbled beneath their feet as they climbed over fallen masonry, and then bones stirred. 4 skeletons clawed free from the soil, their skulls wreathed in sickly green light. Ashard shouted for formation. Dar roared forward swinging his spear, and Teriani charged beside him with a flash of crimson hair. Roland hurled flame, and Lyrin, her voice calm as death, called upon her god to turn them. One skeleton burst apart in light, another staggered back as Dar crushed it with his shield, grumbling, "Can't kill what's already dead! Feels like I'm smashing twigs and salad!" Even in the chaos, there was laughter. That's how they fight, half fury, half family. The shrine of the withering hearth. At the end of the corridor, they reached a vast chamber, silent, cold, and heavy with sorrow. There stood a statue not of Hestia, but of her enemy, Verana, the withering hearth, a veiled woman carved from black stone, cradling a bowl of frozen embers that gave no warmth. The walls dripped with frost and runes that mocked Hestia's creed, a circle of ice surrounding a dying spark. No one spoke. Even Dar was quiet. Then Lyrin stepped forward. She drew her holy symbol, whispered a prayer in the old tongue, and sprinkled water across the stone, each drop hissing as it touched the frozen flame. Her voice grew stronger, filling the chamber with words of power. One by one, the unlit candles flickered to life, not with fire but with light as soft and golden as dawn. The frost retreated. The air warmed. The statue cracked down the centre, and a single ember within its chest flared red before fading to ash. The desecration was broken. When it was done, the others simply watched her in silence. Roland bowed his head. Dar muttered something about never doubting the quiet ones again. The aftermath! They left the tomb at sunrise. The forest around Dornhall Road had grown still, peaceful, if only for a while. The abbot's faith was restored, and he swore to rebuild the chapel once the road could be walked again. But I can't help wondering what this means. A shrine of Varana, here, in our lands. The withering hearth is not worshipped openly, not for centuries. If her cold has returned, it means warmth itself is being challenged. I pray Hestia's flame still burns strong, for I fear this was only the first breath of something much darker.